a young girl starting to drive cars around. It's not something that the people around, probably not so much the employees of the township, but when you're actually stepping out of the township, the local people out there not very used to seeing this. So that is probably hurting their space and almost probably I would say the habitat that they're used to. So a lot of challenges in there where deliberately, the car tires would be punctured if I've just parked it outside. So those little challenges.
It was deliberately sabotaged.
Deliberately sabotaging because they just want to kind of make or teach me a lesson or something that whatever you're doing is wrong. So you need to rectify yourself because that is not how a young girl should lead a life.
How important it is not only to have family who supports and gives you that courage or rather supports your courage because you make the choice, okay? But also a few friends that you can talk to.
Changing jobs and switching from one to another, i.e. switching from one organization or employer to another. But in my case, you would be very surprised that after that Halia Petrochemicals, I moved into UK, did my qualifications and days, and then I moved into Rolls-Royce, and I'm still with the company. It's not that I've been doing the same job. I've been doing multiple jobs, but it doesn't always have to be moving into another different organization.
Welcome to the Missing Link with Amit again. Today the topic that we are going to discuss about is living on the edge, but with power and poise. When we say living on the edge, the image that often comes to mind is dramatic. A rock climber searching for those tiny holes on a vertical cliff, one slip away from a free fall. Or maybe a quiet fishing village, calm on the surface, but always bracing for the next wave, the next storm, the next tsunami. But for many professionals, like all of you, especially leaders, living on the edge isn't about the dramatic. It is quieter. It's those seasons where you're smiling on the outside, but inside, you are just one decision away from burnout or one misstep away from collapse. And when they look back, the leaders, when they really reflect, many of them will tell you there were moments when they almost let go of that cliff or just avoided the brewing storm because of the choices they made. Yes, they found their footing, their resolve, their rhythm. My today's guest is someone who to many appears to be sailing gracefully, calm, composed, absolutely with poise and in control. But a story, well, let's just say there were chapters that felt very much like she was living on the edge. Let me introduce Nabarupa Mukherjee, a professional, a daughter, a mother, a spouse, and a friend in need. Welcome, Nabarupa, to my show. Thank you so much for finding the time. I know you are very, very busy with many things, not just work. Nabarupa is a procurement professional with almost 25 years of industry experience, with a pretty long stint with the famous Rolls-Royce company, an engineer with an MBA qualification. Nabarupa is also a singer, a pageant winner, a fitness enthusiast, and also a philanthropist. Nabarupa, again, warm welcome. Thank you again. So let me ask you the first question. How many hats do you consciously wear, Nabarupa?
Very interesting question to begin with. And firstly, thank you so, so much, Amit, for inviting me to this podcast.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
It's really my honor, my privilege. I've been listening and watching to the podcasts, quite a few actually, very interesting conversations, but never did I ever think that I will be the guest one day. So thank you so much for inviting and looking forward to the conversation and coming back to your first question.
Yes. How many hats do you wear consciously?
Good, yes. I think when it comes to counting the number of hats, I must say that it's countless.
Countless.
Because the life is always like that, because when you're having a child, when you're having your family, husband, parents, and then the work front, you have your colleagues, you have got your managers, you have got your team members. So all the time, every single time, you just keep changing your hats depending on the role you're playing.
Absolutely.
So it's a very interesting dynamics, I would say.
But you know what? There was a little trick I tried to play, which is my emphasis actually is more on the word consciously, because you have now, what, more than 25 years behind you as a professional. And obviously before that, like anybody else, you grew up, you were a student, you did very well, you did your engineering, later on you went on to do a business management degree. But looking back today, there's a lot of practice that goes in, right? Life doesn't spare us from actually having to practice. So do you wear these hats consciously, or are there some hats that you have to wear consciously?
Yeah, I think it's just
You get my-
reflecting on
Yeah.
that. There are moments
Yeah.
where you are actually deliberately wearing that hat consciously. It's not that always something happening naturally to you. Say, for example, if you're kind of, you know that you need to have a very difficult conversation with one of your teammates at work, then you're probably wearing the hat of a manager, or depending on how the conversation is going to go, you might have to wear a hat of a coach as well at the same
Absolutely.
time. When you're having a kind of a difficult presentation to do to the board for getting some approval,
Approvals.
then there's another hat that you're wearing where you're probably just kind of selling your idea, not just as an employee, but it's your idea, your concept that you just want to sell to your managers in the board. So that time, probably you're just kind of, although you're a professional and employee of the same company, but probably you're behaving as if a salesperson. So there are moments at work and even at home.
So yeah, absolutely. I want you to come back to that last bit, even at home, because I think it's very significant. But what was just going on in my mind, why this question came to my mind, as I asked you, consciously wearing a hat or not, is also related to the title. Living on the edge does not mean that you are about to fall off or anything. It's not as dramatic or as dangerous as it sounds when some rock climber is climbing. But the examples that you gave, if I kind of still bring in the same analogy or the metaphor, that it's like, I'm trying to get hold onto this tiny grip on the vertical cliff, and if I just miss it, then I will fall. And hence, I become conscious of locating, identifying, and actually gripping on it.
Yeah.
And that's how it is about living on the edge. It's not about the danger of losing a life.
Yeah.
Maybe it is, I don't know, but we will get into that later. But I want you to come back to the point that you were getting into that, again, wearing consciously the hat, and I cut you off, I'm sorry, when you were getting into on the personal side, on the personal space.
Yeah, I think personal side as well. And that's probably just not me, for everybody. Like, we're playing so many roles at the personal front. Probably it becomes more relevant when you start having your own family, and with the responsibilities coming in, then that time you're consciously, to going back to the word that you were using. Yes, you do wear that conscious hat. And even like when you have your spouse, you play so many hats, isn't it? Like as a friend, as a partner, just to have a little jolly at times. Like, and then obviously having a child, which is a completely different ballgame.
And you have a Gen Z daughter.
Having a Gen Z daughter, absolutely. So it's all sorts of hats that consciously you play. Like, and
I mean, since we mentioned the spouse bit, and we just coincidentally happen to come from the same part of the country, although I never lived in Bengal. We are Bengalis. So I remember, I think my grandmother used to say this, that between a husband and wife, or between the spouses, as we now more often refer to, that 36 রকমের সম্পর্ক, I mean, for the non-Bengalis, it means that we have 36 kinds of relationships that you live with your spouse, whether you are the male or the female partner, doesn't matter. And that's what my grandmother said, who was born in the 19th century.
And that's eternal. That's the eternal saying.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Yeah, that's exactly. And I hope the viewers kind of can relate with it, even if they are Gen Zs, because they have no escape. One day they will also become millennials and Gen Xers or Gen Boomers like me, for example. Okay, so let me, make you go a little bit into your career part. In your journey so far, in your career journey so far, what has been the most satisfying, phase or happy segment, if I may use such a word? What has been the most satisfying or the happiest segment?
In the career, professional
Yes,
career.
yes.
Amit, when I look back and also the current professional life that I'm leading,
Yeah,
there always had been the happy moment,
yeah,
and there always had been some challenges.
sure.
So there is very hard for me to just pick up one segment that is the really happy time, because me as a person, going back to the theme of the topic that you introduced, living on the edge, I will probably sometimes consciously choose myself to throw myself into the edge just to experience some challenges there, because probably I'm bored or I'm not getting much out of my professional life. So I'll desperately try to do that. And then managing that balance somehow and getting into another cliff probably gives me that satisfaction. So this is
It's
how.
okay. I mean, I would like you to look at it. For example, which phase you felt the happiest. How you reached there, I'm not getting into it now.
Yeah, thinking about that, the phase when I was enjoying my life just as a fresher engineering graduate and kind of, learning things.
And for the for the viewers, can you just mention which year was that?
Well, that was early 2000.
Early 2000.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's just after the Millennium celebration. So that phase, and then
And also,
obviously.
which location was there? Where were you? Where did you grow up, and where did you go for work first time?
Yeah, so it was outskirt town of West Bengal, and the place called Haldia, where.
Haldia.
Yeah,
So that's kind of near the delta, right?
that's the Delta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is where my career,
Started.
the professional life started.
And you were a young girl from the city of Kolkata.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So it was quite different. And if you think about like almost 20, 25 years back then.
Exactly 25 years back.
Yeah. It was very different. And even like thinking about an outskirt in Bengal, you can expect really the expectation of the people, and a young girl just graduated as an engineer and in a manufacturing plant, working as an engineer who is actually wearing a hard helmet and hard safety boots and climbing up the monkey ladders to fix an instrument up on a fractionator, which is really, really at a.
Fractionator.
Yeah,
My God.
fractionator.
What would be the temperature? In 50s almost?
Very hot, very hot.
Yeah.
So that was, again, another amazing experience that I had. It's splendid. Like, some people might say that, wow, a girl doing that kind of thing in hot Bengal's climate in summer.
Hot and sultry.
Very sultry, yeah. But yeah, no regrets, because I really enjoyed every moment of that, because there were so many challenges, not just physically, but emotionally as well.
And when we had the short chat, when I kind of approached you and invited you for the podcast, we had a short chat over a coffee, I recall.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned that this was this Halia petrochemical complex, which is, for viewers who do not know, and for the Gen Zs, this is from the socialist time of India, when almost every large company was owned by the government. This was, Halia Petrochemicals is again a public sector company, a very big one. And in those days, probably the only petrochemicals. This is even before Reliance Petrochemicals came into the game, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so this is, really remote south of Kolkata, near the Delta.
Yeah.
And I've been there once. I had a client which I was advising over there, and in the alumina plant.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're talking about. But for the viewers, let me ask you, and please let them know, because you mentioned it, how many young ladies were there in the plant as engineers like you?
Well, barely any, as you can expect, as an engineering field and a hardcore, complex continuous manufacturing plant. In the maintenance, I think passing out as an instrumentation engineering graduate, it was just me. And then in my batch, there was another who was in the process side of it, the chemical
And
engineering.
you had a large campus like any public sector.
Massive campus.
So you used to get bachelor accommodations.
Yeah,
engineers,
yeah,
right?
bachelor's accommodation. And then after the training was done, we got the family accommodation. And there was a lovely, lovely new township, brand new township that was built. So just thinking about the township and Halia Petrochemicals as a campus was splendid. It was brand new. But when you're actually in the town, coming out of the township, then actually the hard reality kicks in with the localites. And
So before you get into what probably you went through or experience and recall going out of the township, but this happiness stage inside the township, wearing your factory boots and your helmet and plumb mounting the top thing at 50 degrees plus centigrades. This was really something which was so happy. But go on to what happens as an experience after you stepped out of the township. And I recall that in that time you already had a car of you.
It was because again, it's not very typical back in those days, as you would expect a young girl.
Even today, I guess in West Bengal, it's not typical.
Not that typical, and especially if you think about 25 years ago, and that too in an outskirt town. A young girl starting to drive cars around. It's not something that the people around, probably not so much the employees of the township, but when you're actually stepping out of the township, the local people out there not very used to seeing this. So that is probably hurting their space and almost probably I would say the habitat that they're used to. So a lot of challenges in there where deliberately, the car tires would be punctured if I've just parked it outside. So those little challenges.
It was deliberately sabotaging.
Deliberately sabotaging because they just want to kind of make or teach me a lesson or something that whatever you're doing is wrong. So you need to rectify yourself because that is not how a young girl should lead a life.
So using the metaphor of climbing the vertical face of the cliff, it was somebody on the top of the cliff throwing stones at you.
Kind of, where I'm trying to kind of climb off. So again, I could have actually made the choice of not driving or not learning to drive because there were other vehicles or transportation. But it was just me, again, going back to what I said about myself, that I sometimes try to push myself into the edge as well. It's a choice I made. I could have not gone for it. But then I thought, like, you know what, this is a challenge that is being thrown at me. Let's just kind of take it on and see how I'm going to do. And then at one point, I became so experienced in changing tires in the middle of the road, taking the jack out. It's like, you know what, you're going to do this to me? I'm going to learn how to fix it. And that is how then I got used to it and that kind of lifestyle. And then that went on for a while. And then I thought probably I'm getting a bit too stable now. I need some change. And that was where again, another phase of my life kicked in. And on and on. So I would say, like, going back to what I said earlier, like every phase had been a happy state and then making some conscious decision to say, okay, what is going to be my next happy state?
A phrase that comes to my mind probably from my older writings, including my book, is that, there are always bends in life. But people who kind of try to peer around the bend, they discover there could be, of course, an angel waiting there. But if you don't peer, you don't even know what is waiting. But you always were peering, whether it was changing your flat tire, teaching yourself to take up the jack and doing it on your own in those days, in complete a hinterland kind of place like Halia. And then you made another choice that, okay, enough is enough. I want to do something more.
Something else,
And you went on to do your business education in the UK, right?
That is where the next phase of my career and life begin again. It was my decision because there are many good institutes here in India to do your master's in business administration, MBA. But I just wanted to see the world. I wanted to get that international experience. And hence the choice. So I started preparing for the GMAT and all the entrance and really kind of worked hard towards it. And finally managed to kind of get myself out of India. And then the next phase of my journey in UK began with new challenges, but again, I must say, a new happy state.
Okay, wonderful. But again, I'm a man, so I can't have a first-hand experience of what a woman goes through.
Yeah.
Yes, I do feel that, with respect, I have the power of empathy to empathize, but yet it is not first-hand experience. Now, 25 years back, and for many of our viewers, maybe it's true even today or not, I don't know, they can make up their minds. But 25 years back, for a young lady who started her career working in a petrochemicals plant as a maintenance engineer, and then she decides to do her business education. You wrote the GMAT, etc. Where did you need any support also for that? Maybe from your family, for example.
Definitely. Like, you know what? In these situations, when you're making some decisions in your life, it's hard to just be on your own without support and doing things. And that would be absolutely wrong for me to say. So, obviously, being a bachelor and having a very supportive parent, that's the biggest support where I got the kind of, the motivation and the inspiration, because it was the decision that I took, but to make it happen. Um, and there were a lot of other complications as well. And that is where I was also that was a very tough decision that I had to make, because it wasn't easy. Because my family is slightly complex, with my only brother being autistic, severely autistic. And when I was taking or thinking about that, and I kind of exchanged that thoughts with a few of my friends over there, they were all kind of, you know, not warning me, but making me conscious of the fact that, look, you have to take the responsibility, because parents will grow older. You have your brother who is autistic. So are you actually kind of really prepared to leave the country and go abroad? And what if you don't get the chance to come back and look after them when they need you to? So those were all this kind of difficult thoughts that I had to kind of reel through. And that is the time when my parents actually supported me immensely, saying that
Yeah, I recall our short chat over the coffee, and we spoke in English, but what comes to my mind is probably an old movie dialogue in Hindi that "Ji le apni zindagi." That's something like what your father said to you, right? We will take care.
Yeah, don't worry about
So for viewers, what I would like you to just reflect upon is this: that's why I chose the title "Living on the Edge," because it's not about one incident here and there. As a leader, you go through so many such experiences, and already just probably Nabarupa has spoken about probably the first 3 or 5 years of her working career, and you can hear about not only those living on the edge kind of experiences, but also more significantly to me when I hear you is that how important it is not only to have family who supports and gives you that courage, or rather supports your courage because you make the choice, okay, but also a few friends that you can talk to. It's so important to have a few friends. And sometimes we did a couple of episodes on managing Gen Zs and millennials. And one of the things that came out quite uniformly, that today's Gen Zs or younger people probably do not have too many friends to talk to. They have many friends, there are many contacts, whether it is the Instagram or the Facebooks and or whatnot. But sometimes I think it's important to think, do I have one friend with whom I can just open my heart and bounce my ideas, my craziness, etc., without feeling vulnerable? And I think that's what you mean by those friends that you could speak to, for example, because you could express those vulnerabilities without feeling that anybody will exploit your vulnerability. That's very important in this life of living on the edge, I guess, as a leader.
Absolutely, totally.
So, thank you very much for sharing. I know they're quite painful parts of our life, but I really admire your courage to share that, and I hope the viewers also take it positively. Yeah, this must have been one of those toughest choices that you made at that time.
So, yeah.
Did you miss out on something because you made such a choice? And was it worth it, is my question. It's a reflective
Did I miss
probably
out on
question.
anything?
Or maybe you can think about some other toughest choice. I'm sure you made so many tough choices in life.
Yeah,
Like,
there always.
what I would like to bring out for the also benefit of the viewers, because we are in a podcast, is that when we do make tough choices, and everybody makes it, and I'm sure the viewers also have made, but sometimes you are not conscious that you have made a tough choice. Only probably in hindsight you think. So if you look back into your life till now, you can think. I would like you to think about the tough choice that you made, which in which you had to kind of have a trade off, and maybe you missed out on something, maybe.
Yeah.
So that's an example maybe for the viewers I would like to bring out if something comes to your mind.
Yeah. So again, maybe another example
Yeah.
during my almost 20 plus years of life in UK.
Yeah.
So again, working for a big multinational blue chip company,
Like
Rolls-Royce,
Rolls-Royce, yeah.
for a number of years. It was going really well. I had so by then it was like I've kind of achieved some, goals, professional goals in my career within Rolls-Royce. So life has become little stable. Have my spouse and have my very little daughter. And that is the time where there was an opportunity. And I know you introduced me as one of the kind of words as pageant winner as well. So if I can share that experience
Please.
in terms of the tough choice, because it's quite unconventional for a person, a professional who is in a corporate world and, leading a steady state life, suddenly thinking about pageants. And the way we perceive pageants as beauty pageants, walking up the ramp, it's very unconventional, right?
I know.
And especially when you have a daughter and your husband and that family side of it as well. So again, when I came to know about this opportunity, I just kind of thought, really, you know what, this is something that probably will give a different dimension to my experience profile. So let's just go ahead with that. And it's a Mrs. Pageant for the married women in UK. So it's called Mrs. India UK.
Okay.
So I decided to participate, and there were a few audition rounds, and from there I was chosen as one of the finalists, and it was a good 4 to 5 months journey of that pageant, because you go through all these sessions, grooming sessions. Fantastic experience. And and again, the wrong perception or the myth that it's all about walking on the ramp is so wrong, because the philanthropy bit of me actually came out from that experience.
Okay.
So there were a lot of ideas about doing something for the community and different charities that were there in my mind, but I never got the opportunity to bring that platform on the surface. So pageant actually enabled me to think differently as to how I can do more for the community and all that. But so I was actually then balancing my work life, and pageant gave me another world, and missing out on the topic that you mentioned. That is where I started missing out on my family side. Daughter was probably about 6 years old. And my husband had been, again, very supportive, I must say, because when I decided I'm going to participate.
And he's a neurosurgeon.
He's a neurosurgeon.
So also had his busy part of this engagement.
Yeah.
So the little one was...
Yeah. And then he was coming over during the weekend to be there, because obviously we never got the opportunity to be in the same place for a number of years because of, I don't go on to his professional complication. But so I was the prime carer, but because I was going into this pageant, he had to then step in and look after the daughter whenever he's coming over. But as a result, she was actually missing the whole family and, having mom and dad. Especially over the weekends when we professional people get the time to hang out with the family and spend. And that is the time when I'm giving to my pageant space. that went on, and that actually then through that I won, and I got the opportunity to go international for Mrs. Earth. And I didn't stop there because that was held in Las Vegas. I thought, massive opportunity. Let's just go and experience the Las Vegas and Mrs. Earth. They all came along with me. So that probably the whole of 2018, that was the year, it all went through the pageant and pageant one after another. And then towards the end, I got some awards in Mrs. Earth in there as well. And then I started getting some modeling opportunities and some other avenue opened for me. And then I thought, you know what? I need to step back. This is probably not the life that I would prefer to go for the rest of my career. I'm happy with my professional career. I've got my family and I have got a responsibility. So even if I'm enjoying it, I'm liking it, that is a tough decision and something that I was missing out on. And then I kind of
Thank you so much. I think that's such a wonderful example of, again, leadership. Because after all, like when my kids were very young, I was preparing a couple of slides for my lecture that I am in Bangalore, and I was teaching a course on leadership and change management, and they just walked in and trooped into my study and said, "What are you working as?" Leadership. And well, they were just 10 years and 13 years old at that time. And when I said that leadership, okay, then just to engage them, I said, "Look, what do you think a leader does?" And my daughter was the younger one. Normally it was a son with the brother who used to speak more. And she suddenly chirped. She said, "Oh, the leaders decide." I said, "Oh, great." And both of us, brother, my son, and me, we were surprised pleasantly. I said, "Okay, but what does the leader do after the decision?" He said, "They act." And that's the shortest, honestly, Nabarupa, probably the best example I have, and it carried with me now for many years. But yes, you decide, you act, but you can't take a decision if you do not have options. Right? There's nothing to decide upon. So you create options by breaching boundaries, by looking beyond the bends, and then you discover options, and then you make a choice. And that's leadership. So you did that. You went into something as an experience, you felt good, you succeeded, celebrated, but then you saw no, there were other options which were higher priority, dearer, etc., etc. So that's, viewers, what is leadership in practice, and that's why, again, the title, living on the edge, because if you're on the edge, then you can see there are different options, but then sometimes you choose not to take some option also. Okay, great, fantastic. So, in short, what does a typical week for you look like nowadays?
Nowadays.
Yeah.
Now that I've relocated back to India, I think the typical look I would the week or days rather. I'm trying to kind of bring a bit of a routine at the moment. So I'm single parenting again in Bangalore, and it's work mostly because this is a new role that I've picked up. I'm still with Rolls-Royce, but it's the Rolls-Royce India, and the relocation has come with more responsibilities, additional responsibilities that I've picked up. So at the moment, yes, a lot of my work time is working in 2 time zones with India and UK. And again, there's no regret because it's a conscious decision I've made and to relocate. And I've got my dog as well, so a bit of a looking after for the dog. And daughter, obviously, her time is important. So basically, typically, I would say that if it is 80% of work, then I'll try to kind of spend 20% of my time, or if not 20%, I would say 15%, because I keep at least 5% for myself.
So contingencies.
Yes.
And you are a contingency also, important one.
Absolutely.
I fully can appreciate that. Yeah, I think I had a next question, which is, has there been a moment, and I'm sure there were more than one moment, where your work clearly took over your life? And I think you kind of addressed that more or less. And you then made your choices again. So because that's what, again, leadership is all about, that we make choices, right? So how has your definition of balance we talk about it with work-life balance, work-life
Mhm,
balance, people
mhm.
talk about. So how has it changed across your career, or has it?
Mm. It has changed.
Yeah.
Definitely, it has. But I think it's probably going to be a very typical and conventional way of putting that across. That when you're on your own and you haven't got your own family,
Mm-hmm.
then work becomes everything or mostly everything for
Mm.
you, because you have that option to spend more towards your professional growth. um, but I had always been the person, and I'm still is, that work should not take over my personal life completely. So I made it a point always that to have a bit of my social time, and I'm generally a very social person, so I like talking to people, mingling with people.
Yeah.
So that had always been the case. But after childbirth, I would say that it was a conscious decision,
Mm.
and again, the choice I made uh, to focus more on bringing her up
Yeah.
rather than, working incredible hours at work.
Mm.
And that way, I think I was quite lucky, quite fortunate, being in UK, where the personal life is also treated
There's a,
that balance.
yeah.
Generally, you're not expected to stay in office
Or
until,
available
or
or
be
something.
available over phone. If you're on holiday, you actually switch off everything. So that way, it helped me to maintain that balance. But again, if I have to kind of consciously strike a balance, then and step back, then that was the time I made some conscious decision to do that. Again, as I said, mostly over there, not husband being there constantly. It was something that I had to be responsible for. So yeah,
So it changes, yeah.
it does.
Yeah, I mean, my question was more also for the viewers who probably were, a little bit earlier on this trajectory of life than people like you and I. So is that, this work-life balance is not a constant and a consistent thing. Yes, it has significance. Like from my little experience, and I've spoken about it in earlier episodes, and I've written about it in the past, that, when we are young, work is equal to life.
Yes,
And it should be, because we have to learn such a lot
yeah,
and practice all those what I call explicit knowledge,
yeah,
process, technology, tools, systems, etc. But as we go ahead in life,
yeah.
then life is equal to work plus X.
Mm,
And the X is what makes the life
yes,
possible,
yes,
So that's exactly the
yeah,
word you mentioned.
yeah.
Okay, great. So, number one, continuing with this title of ours, Living on the Edge, there's another aspect, I believe, to any professional's life, which I'm sure the viewers will also find it quite interesting. Now, you have not just survived living on the bend, living on the edge for so many other things that we discussed or touched upon till now, but also as a professional, right? You are a supply chain professional. You are setting up another big new team out of Rolls-Royce India, for example. So obviously, you have had to also, I won't say live on the edge, but yeah, kind of the edge of knowledge. And
Mhm.
when I say knowledge here, I mean the knowledge that you need to function as a professional
Yeah.
in the domain, the expertise, the explicit part of it,
Mhm.
whether it is tools, technology,
Yeah.
processes, systems,
Yeah.
okay, all that. So how did you manage to not just survive but succeed as a professional?
Yeah. Obviously, very interesting question. And just on that, typically you would see a professional changing jobs and switching from one to another, i.e., switching from one organization or employer to another. But in my case, you would be very surprised that after that Halia Petrochemicals, I moved into UK, did my qualifications, MBAs, and then I moved into Rolls-Royce, and I'm still with the company. It's not that I'd been doing the same job, I'd been
Obviously,
doing multiple jobs, but it doesn't always have to be moving into another different organization if you can get your career goals and your aspirations achieved in each job that you're doing. So, throughout my life and career in Rolls Royce, the learning side of it had been immense. So I started off in a procurement function as a buyer. Started off as a leadership trainee because there was this program that was put in place
And they put you in different functions. I
in
think
different
you mentioned,
functions,
yeah,
but
yeah.
that's focused on nurturing the leadership
Yeah.
capabilities
And also understanding the breadth of the business.
the breadth of the
Yeah.
business. And so I was actually put into that career scheme. And through that, the opportunities in Rolls-Royce that I got through multiple jobs, it was immense. And that enabled me to gain so many skills. And when we say leadership skills, it's such a broad spectrum of multitude of different skill sets come into that blending pot, right? So the whole thing was more about, how you actually put the team together, work with the team, and let the team to flourish. That's the kind of thing and that is the bit. Although procurement professional, there are a lot of procurement specific technical skills that is needed, which I managed to kind of grow and develop on through my procurement experience and the knowledge. But the whole tacit side of it, of how to lead, how to build a team, the interpersonal skills, the communication skills. And at one point, the whole thing is all about how you're managing different set of people, different stakeholder groups. If you can do that bit right, then the rest of it just flows naturally. So I think that those were the skills that I could consciously and unconsciously develop throughout my career. And then the whole experience of how a global organization, and when I say global, it's like truly global. You're managed to get an assignment out to our Indianapolis office and worked from our Rolls-Royce North America office for a while. Been going to Deutschland, our Germany office on and off. And this is all kind of was part and parcel of my Rolls-Royce career, doing multiple different things. So to your point, yes, living on the edge had been within my professional career, had been different at different stages. But through all these different jobs that I changed time and again, I kind of consciously grew my skills as a leader. And now the recent relocation over to India is another classic example where through our corporate transformation journey, I got the opportunity to come over to India and then set up the team and run the team. So all these opportunities and experiences actually put me into the edge where I'm kind of learning new skills, developing myself, growing, and also making my life and professional world more interesting.
Well appreciated. Even, for example, although as an Indian, you come back to India after what, 20
More than
plus
that,
years,
yeah.
20, yeah. And now you to recruit, you have to lead
Yeah.
Indians,
Yeah.
which probably you are not having to do that much
No.
in your stint in the UK, a long stint. So it's also an edge again you're living on. But I would like you to just go back to the explicit side. The tacit is the leadership side, which you very nicely explained. But we'll go back to that one later. But on the explicit side, you had to obviously also constantly upgrade your explicit knowledge. And I will not using the word skill here, it's knowledge.
Yes.
So, because as a overall supply chain professional, as you said, from a buyer to, I don't know what other different roles you had to play over all these years. And you're a pretty senior professional today in the Rolls-Royce organization, and you're not only dealing with the Phantom, but you're dealing with engines and aircraft engines and whatnot, for example. And there are hundreds and thousands of transactions that go in for the entire supply chain management. So you started off as an instrumentation engineer in Halia Petrochemicals. You went did your MBA, and I think you also armed yourself with something related to supply chain.
Yes.
Actually,
yeah, that was again a kind of a conscious thing because I was in procurement and some additional qualifications in there, which is the chartered purchasing. So it's what we call SIPs. That accreditation was quite helpful for my
And
career
which you
growth.
did it on your own, not through the company.
No, actually, I got the sponsorship from
Okay, yeah.
Rolls-Royce, so that was quite handy.
But
that,
you hunted it out, or you were kind of encouraged by the HR or your leadership to do
it
it?
wasn't a compulsion.
It was an option for you.
There was an option, and there are many procurement professionals who are surviving, probably I would say succeeding as well without that. But I felt the need of doing it, and it helped me definitely to understand the world of procurement and supply chain a lot, because it was quite an extensive course. And going back to what I said, that when you're actually on your own and early in your career, you get more time to focus on these things, on your professional growth, which I actually managed to do. So alongside work, that was the part-time activity that I picked upon. And it went on for a few years before the final dissertation and everything happened to be in place. But yeah, that was the added qualification that I had to do.
And without even getting into today's context where, not reportedly, but even I'm convinced it is, AI is seeping into everything, for example. Now, whether you are in supply chain or you are in product development or even marketing or even sales,
Yeah.
AI is seeping in everywhere, right? Things have changing like hell. But over a period of 20 years,
Yeah.
and irrespective of the fact that maybe the employer entity is one single, you have multiple roles.
Yeah.
So to get those roles, there were obviously not only certifications, but even, I would say extra job or outside the job decisions you had to make, choices that, I need to learn more, I need to study more.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, it's not the same education that I got as an engineer that's going to work for me. Or even the last, certification or something, accreditation I went through. So how did you approach this constant upgradation of your knowledge, explicit knowledge?
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the leadership tacit side.
Yeah.
Okay, overall this over such a long period of career.
Yeah, actually, you're absolutely right that you do your certification and then over a period of time, that probably is not relevant anymore. It is to be relevant in the current context. It's always, and I would say again, Rolls-Royce being a company who tends to nurture the skills and the growth of the employees. So there were a lot of kind of opportunities to enhance those skills through the training programs that the company organized, so which I managed to kind of pick up and make use of those opportunities. And then on my own, through my MBA contacts and my professional network that I've got, there were opportunities of getting into the MBA alumni network, and getting to know really like more around talking to people, and through those networking events, understanding what is going on in the market, and just be on the edge of the procurement and the supply chain side of it in the industry. And then there had been multiple opportunities again from Rolls-Royce. We're being obviously in the procurement, you're getting invited into the supplier conferences, so you tend to attend them. So there are a lot of those skill enhancement. Rather than doing a theoretical exam-based certification, you learn and you enhance through those events.
And you have to also learn, because any company runs also on, I won't just refer to as IT systems, but process systems, kind. And these systems also get
enhanced and
keeps changing.
Yeah.
And it also changes the way a human role player kind of interacts with the system.
Absolutely.
Because 5 years back, somebody was still maybe on SAP, whichever version. And today, if he or she is working still on the SAP, and they do, they probably are not having to do the same thing as they were doing. So it is also upgradation, for example, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to bring it out also for viewers that normally my podcast, my channel is more on the leadership side and self-development.
Yeah.
And but it doesn't mean that it happens without the explicit side of it. That's like oxygen. I mean, you can't survive as a professional without the explicit. That's what I wanted to bring out also from your. So going back, you mentioned very interestingly, like when you had to work with different parts of the Rolls-Royce organization, North America and Germany and other places, and now in India. and even from India, you are still interacting and working with. So every time you again kind of bend, look around the bend, or rather live on the edge of what you are doing, you are discovering new people. Now these new people could either be new team members, they could be peers, and in a large organization they could be just transactional, nodes or whatever one may refer to, or they could be your managers. I'm sure you obviously over 10 to 20 years you may have at least, I don't know, 5 or 10 managers that you have to work with. And they also could be different genders. Okay, their personal lives could be different, and they are different because we are all individuals, right? So managing all these relationships and yet achieving your objectives, both as a professional as well as an individual. Okay. Can you just share your thoughts about that? I want you to essentially kind of capture managing relationships and managing your objectives, both professionally and on your life space. But sticking first maybe to the professional side.
Yeah, very interesting question. And I would say that rather than, I know you've kind of themed it between the two as managing objectives and managing relationships. But to me, I think managing your objectives is so interlinked with managing the relationship side of it, because you can achieve your objectives well and you can succeed or over-succeed or overachieve only when you've managed to kind of do well with your relationships around.
And particularly when you are a manager or an executive.
Absolutely.
Not as in an IC role. Maybe that time you can still manage your objectives without so much managing relationships. But the moment you become managers and executives,
it's all about that management of relationships, all the stakeholders around, to your point, as you said, your own team members, your own managers and their managers, and obviously from procurement background, the whole external supply chain. And sometimes you think really like, vendors. And sometimes you think, oh, we are Rolls-Royce, we are procurement, so we can actually ask whatever the suppliers. But no, there are some supplier organizations which are probably even larger than Rolls-Royce. So the balance of power is probably completely on the external supply chain rather than you.
And another angle, I mean, like you are an individual who is interacting with a supplier organization, but you are not interacting with the organization. It may be a large company, a small company. You're interacting with one individual there too.
Absolutely.
And that individual also has her or his, approach towards life, the tacit side of it. So you have to handle that.
Absolutely.
You don't have a choice in this case to say, oh, Mr. Supplier, can you change this person? I don't like him or her.
No.
You have to work.
You
you can't change your manager.
That's right. Yes, it's given, right? It's a gravity. There you go. You like it or not. But I think I would say that managing relationship, that aspect of the skill set, that also I managed to kind of develop over a period of time. It didn't happen suddenly, naturally. But this is again dealing with it. And it's very hard to say, and there isn't any kind of black and white or things just happening overnight. It just naturally and over the time it happened as I managed to kind of experience and see different people in different contexts. And then just to kind of point out, there's a bit of a change in the work culture side of it. Obviously coming from India and then going into UK and then obviously starting off my career there. The whole work culture, the mindset, how people work, how people think, that was again completely different. Even after coming back to India after so many years, I can again see the change in the mindset and the behavior, the working behavior of people. So all those changes like actually help you to learn more and build on those relationship skills even further. But yeah, to your point, I would say yes, managing relationships is a basic, fundamental that you need to manage your objectives.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So let me take you to something more kind of nicer or maybe softer.
Right.
So it's a standard question, I guess. If your younger self, I mean, everybody is young, you are also very young, It's always a relative term, right? But your younger self could see your current life. What would surprise her the most? So the
Wow.
say the 20-something-year-old, those days, Gen Z or young millennial, Nabarupa, watching you today as the, what do you fit the label, an elder millennial, I guess?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would that Nabarupa be surprised about seeing in you? That Nabarupa. You know, probably the one who was mounting those
Yes.
flights of, what do you call
Yeah.
it, the stairs in the
Yeah.
petrochemicals plant.
Yeah. I think the way you introduced to begin with this topic and the conversation, where you mentioned about poise, I think that is probably something that I've managed to kind of go through and develop and come to this state.
And also the word power. I
And the
added
power.
2 words.
Yes. So the whole thing about that poise and power in terms of those behavioral skill set that I have developed, I think that wasn't there when I was probably young graduate or the college student. So that has something definitely will surprise that yes, this person can actually be like this. The personality can change so much, because sometimes we often say that yeah, you get that personality, and once there's done and dusted, it's a open and shut case.
A word that comes to my mind, and having done these episodes
Yeah.
about managing Gen Zs and millennials, which everybody finds quite challenging, would you say that Nawarupa was brash as
Yes.
compared to this Nawarupa who is,
Yes.
oozing poison power?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think
So
so.
it's natural to be
It is
brash when you are
natural to be
younger,
brash
right?
when you're in your early 20s, or like you've just kind of, and then I think that comes with the experience and so much you have
Life
seen and
teaches
the
you a lot.
exposure, and life teaches you.
Yeah.
So now if there are a lot of storm going on around you,
Yeah.
then you know that your behavior, your reaction to those storms and dealing with those storms will be a lot different. It will come with a bit of a calmness.
And this is why, at least speaking for myself, I found these 2 words so significant in my learning, in my, carrying my life forward over the years. Of course, this didn't start when I was probably another brash 20-something odd year old, is the difference between explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. And, companies spend a lot of money, justifiably so, to keep on upgrading the explicit knowledge. And that is where they bring in trainers, for example, internal, external, whatever, even internal mentors on the domain specific. But most organizations and most individuals, particularly in our society, due to another reason for sure, but most organizations do not get into how to develop the tacit knowledge. Some organizations like Rolls-Royce consciously do it, okay, that helps develop those tacit side, the leadership skills, how to manage relationships while also managing your objectives. But this is not something most organizations spend money on. I mean, I used to, and even now sometimes I get a contract about one-to-one coaching of a CEO or a senior manager in a company. And when the contract comes, I see the word trainer lit. And then I shoot back to maybe the CEO or the global HR that head that contracted me. I said, look, didn't we discuss I'm not a trainer?
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I'm doing a webinar differentiating between coaching and training for this purpose.
So important.
So
important. You can't
but
train leadership to somebody.
you can't. Yeah.
No.
It's actually, people use the word skills. I know it comes like a semantic, but leadership is more a behavioral aspect, and you also touched upon that. But with that, now we will kind of come to the close, more or less. And yeah, I mean, you have a young Gen Z daughter, and I know she is a fine dancer like you also, and you are a singer too. But how would you like to see your next gen, not only your daughters? So I'm not getting into the personal, that you and your daughter issue, but how would you like to see your next generation manage their trajectory of life from where they are now to the next, whatever, 5 years, 10 years? How would you like to see them develop? It's like you bought a nice plant
Yeah.
in a garden and you would
Yeah.
like to see this plant
Yeah.
naturally flower and bloom and
Yeah.
uh,
I think the whole trajectory, I know we're kind of phasing them or us as human into all these different generation brackets. But end of the day,
mhm.
it's that human side of it is is unchanged, right? Like doesn't matter. You end of the day, you are a human being, whether you fall in the Gen Z bracket, you fall in the millennial bracket. And I know the social media side of it has got a massive influence. The technology has got a massive influence. And that's needed. But I think the trajectory and the growth side of it, the social media or the technology should not take over the human aspect of the generation, the next generation. So spending time with people around, talking to people, rather than getting all the information from technology. Because these days, like AI and information is all over. You don't need to talk to people, but often you miss out the tacit side of it
Absolutely.
without being able to communicate, talk to other humans around, which is where I think the real struggle is. And I think any growth trajectory can't be just completely reliant on technology.
Yeah.
So I would say that the next generation, the trajectory should be focusing a little bit more on the human side of it rather than completely reliant on the digital space and the technology
So
world.
you almost answered my last question. I was about to ask that what should they be, irrespective of the titles, the younger people? And the younger is a relative term. And I know of people who sometimes appear very young, even if they are in mid 50s. And I know of some people, they appear very wise,
Yeah.
reflective, even if they are in mid 20s, for example. So age is not the issue over here. It's the trajectory, it's the exposure, and etc. So, uh, so yeah. My last question was actually, what would you like to kind of put a word of caution to? So I think you kind of touched upon that
on that, yes.
already.
And I think that is a worry bead, though, isn't it? I think we all are very conscious of that, that how, and even in our space as well, we are so much technology biased and focused on and dependent on technology that we somehow miss out the human context. So it's not just for the Gen Z generation, it for us as well, living in this generation is relevant for all of
Absolutely,
us. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
No, I mean, technology, social media. Now I'm also part of social media, thanks to my friend Vinay and his team, who brought me into this podcast, which I love to do, and share, and also bring in guests through whom we can share even more than what I
Yeah.
alone can do. So, but on the other hand, it's a bit like, I think, what we touched upon rather in the first part of our discussion or conversation, that work should not take over life.
Yes.
Okay. And similarly, technology or a smartphone should not take over your life, otherwise, you become less smarter.
Yeah.
So, anything that's available in the world today, and things will be only become more and more for sure. But leadership is about making choices. Leadership is about saying, like you shared this great experience when you went into the pageant experience. You did so well, but then you said no.
Yeah.
I get out of it. So you made a choice.
Yeah.
So if the pageant experience was like whatever comes on the smartphone, the least that comes is actually a phone. So okay, yeah, it is absolutely essential for quite a few things nowadays.
Yes.
Like in India, we can use the phone to pay any damn thing that we buy, even a coconut vendor on the street. But so I always carry my phone with me. I rarely carry my wallet anymore, for example. So like yesterday, I was at a dinner and they asked me for my business card, and I said, sorry, I don't have my wallet with me. So I could show them my QR code. Okay. And they said, oh, Amit, you being in mid-60s, you are still so modern that you have a QR code. I said, no, I'm not modern, but I have modern friends who help me having these things. And I know, okay, fine, I can use it when I don't have my wallet with me. So with that, I come to the end of my questions. Thank you for responding and sharing so much from your life. But yes, like in everything, we have to come to an end. But before we end, I would like you to share your thoughts. How was your experience, and what would you like to leave maybe as few thoughts for our fantastic viewers who are also managers and executives.
Thank you very much once again, Amit.
You're welcome.
Can't even explain how much I enjoyed the conversation. It's like pouring my heart out in the conversation, and it was very, very interesting and enjoyable for me. So, and I hope the viewers also enjoyed watching and listening to our conversations. Um, the last few words from my end would be again, when you're actually busy with your own professional career and your growth, don't miss out on the fact that there will be edges that you'll have to kind of deal with. And even if you're falling off, don't get into that panic mode, because you as a leader would be able to find your way out and move on to the next cliff. It's all in your mind and how you self drive yourself. But in the middle of everything, don't forget about the self care side of it. If you have some time for yourself and if you care for yourself, then that is the time where you can reflect upon and then think about what is going to be your next step to move on to the next cliff, and rather than falling off the cliff. So I think that probably will be the takeaway words from my
Thank
end.
you very much, Nabarupa. And thank you very much, viewers. I hope, no, I don't hope, I'm sure you found the conversation and what Nabarupa could share out of your life experiences quite interesting. I hope they also become useful for most of you. And please continue to subscribe to my channel, The Missing Link with Amit. And more importantly, do share your comments and some questions for Nabarupa or me or Vinay, and we would love to come back to you. Also suggest if any particular topic that you would like us to deal for our next episodes. And see you again. Thank you very much. Signing off from The Missing Link with Amit.